Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to this Friday edition of the Watchman Newscast live stream. Hey, some breaking news right off the bat. Obviously, things have been heating back up between Israel and Hezbollah. August 25th, Israel carries out that massive and stunning preemptive strike against Hezbollah, destroys thousands of rocket launch barrels, and preempts what would have been a major Hezbollah attack. Well, Hezbollah was quiet for a few days, relatively. Now things have ramped back up again. We told you the other day about Hezbollah launching over 100 rockets just on Wednesday at Israel. Well, Israel today, folks, a little bit of breaking news here right when we're coming on. It's around midnight in Israel right now. More than 15 rocket launchers and sites belonging to Hezbollah. I'm reading this from the Times of Israel. More than 15 rocket launchers and sites belonging to Hezbollah were targeted in a series of airstrikes in southern Lebanon this evening, according to the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. Now, according to the Israeli military, some of the launchers were primed for rocket attacks on Israel. So, folks, it seems that we have yet again a preemptive strike by Israel against Hezbollah that could have averted a disaster and a lot of casualties. Here's more. The IDF says that immediately following the strikes, rockets were seen flying out of some of the targeted launchers, which landed in Lebanese territory. They didn't travel over the border into Israel. The Israeli military published footage of the strikes, and according to the Lebanese media, the strikes occurred in the Nabateh governorate in Lebanon. Now, more actually, I'm just scrolling down here. The Times of Israel has got some good breaking items right here. So know that, number one, that Israel again carried out not a massive preemptive strike, but look, according to the IDF, they preempted a Hezbollah attack, which is always a good thing, obviously. And that comes as yet again, yes, things are ramping up. A little lull after August 25th. Now Hezbollah is going at it pretty hard again. And Israel is responding in a major way. And I want to read this other item involving Russia and Iran from the Times of Israel. But just quick aside here, Israeli leaders once again are saying we're prepping for war in the north. We're getting ready. We need to return our evacuees to their homes in the north. Okay, we've heard this now for months on end. And eventually it's going to happen. But man, is it kind of just being prolonged. It's nearly a year. October 8th will be a year since Hezbollah unilaterally began bombarding Israel with rockets, missiles, and attack drones. And it's absolutely unsustainable, folks, and intolerable. So Israel's been saying, look, the day is coming. The day is coming. The day is coming for a major campaign in the north to push Hezbollah back, preferably destroy Hezbollah decisively, like Israel is in the process of doing with Hamas. But in the very least, I assume, push Hezbollah back at least 18 miles past the Litani River, at least 18 miles beyond the Israel-Lebanon border, beyond the Litani. That seems to be the sweet spot that Israel says that's all we can accept. So this has been the chatter for months upon months now. And it's a question not of if, but when. Folks, even before October 7th, before October 8th, look, October 7th, Hamas obviously carries out the massacre, the invasion. October 8th, Hezbollah joins in and starts firing from the north. I could go back, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago and talking to Israeli intelligence experts and military officials who said back then, it's a question not of if, but when we go into Lebanon and we have a climactic battle with Hezbollah. The Hezbollah threat is that severe, that advanced, and that pronounced. Well, we're here. And I think the world is watching and saying, okay, when's this coming? We know it's going to come. But look, Israel has been very, I think, savvy. It's a good word for you. I usually use that in sporting terms, and this is anything but a game, but very savvy in their decision making, I think, here. And when they go in to decisively, hopefully, strike Hezbollah, they'll know that it will be the right timing where they say, okay, this is it. And key point, we've done everything we could to exhaust every single option to essentially keep the world at bay, because the world has been wailing and gnashing its teeth and howling for Israel to not strike Hezbollah in any sort of major way. So Israel is saying, look, okay, we've exhausted every possible option. This is intolerable. This threat must be neutralized. Apparently, that point has not come yet. to the point that Israel says we got to go in now. When that's going to come, I don't know, but eventually it's going to come. So just keep that in mind as we talk Israel-Hezbollah. And yes, I very well realize the headline of this newscast today, Yahya Sinwar, Iran. Just give me a minute, because that's important breaking news about Hezbollah. Secondly, also from the Times of Israel, I think you want to know this. Iran has delivered close-range ballistic missiles to, drumroll please, Russia. Surprise, surprise. U.S. and European officials say that Russia is receiving these shipments. They signed a contract in December with Iranian officials for a ballistic missile system. And here we go. Iran is now shipping missiles to Russia. And folks, this comes on the heels, obviously, of repeated Iranian drone shipments, thousands of drones, attack drones supplied to Russia by Iran. This is a full-blown military alliance, a defense partnership, no doubt. They are cozy and getting cozier, Vladimir Putin and the Iranian regime. And folks, look, I'll lay it out for you. I believe it has prophetic implications. And I know some disagree about the shape of that Gog-Magog coalition that the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39 lays out. Some people say it's not going to be Russia. Man, it seems to me that with the way things are going and the way the prophetic chess pieces are moving on the board, with Iran, Russia, and Turkey cleaving closely together, in particular Russia and Iran, that latter days confederation that the prophet Ezekiel says comes against Israel on the mountains of Israel, got to think Russia's at the head of it. Russia, Turkey, Iran. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I am, it's not a salvation issue. I know people get very fired up about the prophetic. We can disagree on Bible prophecy and coming events, and it's not a salvation issue. We're still brothers and sisters in Christ. So take a deep breath. If you're getting fired up, hearing me right now saying, I believe Russia will be at the head of that invasion force. Nonetheless, even if they're not, this is a profoundly troubling development to see the Iranian regime and Russia coming closer together. And I've been saying for a while now, to all the Vladimir Putin fans and apologists, and I know we've got a bunch out there, and you say, some have said he's a defender. Stakelbeck, you've got it all wrong. He's a defender of Christianity. He's actually a defender of Western civilization because he opposes the LGBT madness and the trans madness. But guess what? He's also in bed with the world's worst persecutors of Christianity: Iran, North Korea, and China, arguably the world's three worst persecutors of the Christian faith. These are his friends, and you can tell a lot about a man by the company he keeps. Not only that, Putin has persecuted Bible-believing evangelical Christians in Ukraine and in Russia proper. If you're not Orthodox, he really doesn't want much to do with you. So this is the reality of the situation. But I thought that was worth sharing and something worth keeping an eye on for sure. Let's get into Sinwar and his potential escape and some very revealing documents that the IDF has found in Gaza detailing Hamas and Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's Gaza, well, actually their overall leader now, their plans. Before I do, quick reminder as we head into the weekend here, if you like what you're hearing, you like news, current events, breaking out of the world's most chaotic, volatile region, the Middle East, Israel, why it matters to you no matter where you live, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time we post a new video here on the channel. Fast approaching, hard to believe, 1 million subscribers for such a time as this, 1 million subs. And folks, not for our glory, but for the glory of God. And we're just forging ahead and trying to deliver a message of truth in times where good is called evil and evil is called good. Crazy number for you. Some 72% of our regular viewers, 72% are actually not subscribed to the channel. And that's kind of crazy, right? So look, if you're with us every day, we'd love you to make it official and become watchmen and women on the wall here every single day with us. And you won't miss a single post when you subscribe. And not only that, again, it helps us to get the message out far and wide. We've got people watching right now from literally every continent. Even some penguins on iPhones in Antarctica might be watching right now. But in all seriousness, You help us get the message out for such a time as this when you subscribe, and YouTube recommends it to more people, and more people get educated. And guess what? They might even hear about Jesus and get closer to the Lord. So that's always a good thing. So we'd love you to subscribe. Okay, Yahya Sinwar, the man with the ears and the man with the vicious, bloodthirsty streak and the blood of thousands on his hands, quite literally. The latest with him. Now, Israel has taken out Mohammed Deif, who was the Hamas military chief in Gaza. He's dead and gone. Several other top Hamas leaders and commanders dead and gone. Yahya Sinwar, reportedly, still alive. So here's the latest. From the Jewish Chronicle, very interesting piece written by Elon Perry. And the title is Sinwar's, I'm just reading this straight off my phone, by the way, that's why I'm looking down. Sinwar's secret plan to smuggle hostages to Iran. Now, let me just say, it makes sense he'd want to escape to Iran because Iran is Hamas's patron. Hamas is a proxy of the Iranian regime. Papers captured by the IDF and information obtained under interrogation by Hamas members who've been captured by Israel may indicate how the Hamas terror chief plans to escape his dire predicament. Remember, he's moving from tunnel to tunnel in Gaza every day as the IDF closes in. Benjamin Netanyahu said, and he has said throughout this week, that if Israel gives up control of the Philadelphia corridor, that's that major transit route between Gaza and Egypt. It's the main means for Hamas to smuggle arms into Gaza. Excuse me. Bibi has said, if we give that up, then Iran is going to use it to smuggle hostages potentially to Iran. I mean, it makes sense. Iran has been able to transit loads of weapons into Hamas through that Philadelphia corridor, again, along the Gaza-Egypt border. Is it beyond the realm of possibility that Sinwar would try to use tunnels, go beneath the Philadelphia corridor, into Egypt, to the sea somehow, and escape, dressed as maybe a Muslim woman? You laugh. But in all seriousness, we've seen this not only among Taliban leaders in the past, where they literally would wear a burqa, full Islamic female garb from head to toe, and try to escape. We've even seen this in the United States, including my hometown of Philadelphia, where, you know, robberies and people trying to rob banks or rob people dressed as in Muslim garb. So you laugh, males dressing in female garb to escape detection. Is that beyond the realm of possibility? I think his ears may stick out of the burqa if you've seen Yahya Sinwar, but I digress. This is the state of play. Bibi said, and I quote, if we leave the Philadelphia corridor, it will be impossible to prevent Hamas not only from smuggling weapons, but also from smuggling hostages. Key point, folks, remember, dozens of hostages, well, I think 100 or 101 still held by Hamas and various terror groups like Islamic Jihad in Gaza. Two things to remember. Reportedly, at least 30 of those hostages are dead, so it's the remains of a few dozen held. That's number one. And number two, there are at least 5, I'm an American, at least 5 U.S. hostages still held right now in Hamas's clutches. So very much so. There are at least 70, it seems, 60, 70 hostages still alive that Hamas, Islamic Jihad, would love to smuggle out. Just remember that. So an ideal place for them to go would be Iran, no doubt, with open arms. How much do you think the Iranian regime would love to dig its claws, to get its clutches on Israeli and American citizens? And they may not make it known. What Iran could possibly do, if they were to have such a bonanza in their view, would be just to keep them underground, God forbid, but let's be realistic, torture them, and maybe not tell anyone until these hostages just, God forbid, expire. And is it beyond the realm of possibility that Iran would do that? No. And Israel would say, the IDF closes in, they raided all the tunnels, and they never find the hostages. Why? Because they were ferried away to Iran. Folks, I hate to even lay that scenario out, but if Sinwar, if Hamas leaders or what's left of them are able to escape Gaza, is this plausible? What do you think? Comment. What do you think? Geographically, is it just impossible in a geographical sense? How would he get to Iran? Okay, you get into Egypt, but then what? You get into the Sinai Peninsula, then what? How do you get to Iran? Is it plausible? Is it just a crazy theory? It's not mine, by the way. I'm just quoting what some intelligence sources are saying here and what's being suggested in Israel by some. But what do you think? We have a very educated viewership here and also a lot of ex-military men and women watching too. So what do you guys think? I mean, is this, looking at the map, is this feasible? I think it's worth discussion for sure. But okay, let's go on. What was the background to this claim? The Jewish Chronicle continues. Intelligence sources have told the Jewish Chronicle that Sinwar's plan was to smuggle himself and the remaining Hamas leaders, along with Israeli hostages, through the Philadelphia corridor to Sinai in northern Egypt, and from there to Iran. This was reportedly revealed during the interrogation of a captured senior Hamas official, as well as by information obtained from documents seized on Thursday, August 29th. Now, that's the day the 6 bodies of the recently murdered hostages were recovered. The piece goes on to say Hamas has been insisting for months on taking control of the Philadelphia corridor. I wonder why, while Israel has strongly resisted. Wisely. This is why no deal or compromise has been agreed in the last 8 months, despite the efforts of the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar. Sinwar, it goes on to say, has most likely come to realize that the war was over as far as Hamas was concerned, and that his chances of achieving military success were nil, despite his success in international propaganda. Oh, he's been quite successful at that. Take a stroll through a U.S. college campus, an Ivy League college campus. You'll see pro-Hamas mobs and cheerleaders. So, yeah, Yahya's done a very good job transmitting his message to useful, or should I say useless, idiots here in the West. The piece says, Sinwar sees only one way out, to save his own life by abandoning the battlefield and fleeing Gaza. And that seems to be the Philadelphia corridor. It's turned out to be the only option available to fulfill his plan, which is defined by Israeli security officials as cowardly. I would say so. After you brought about the demise of your people, essentially, in Gaza, you masterminded October 7th. Hell was unleashed upon your heads, and now you're going to run away. Interesting. However, the Israelis are not even considering withdrawing from the Philadelphia corridor, even at the price of no deal or further dead hostages. And why would that be? You might say, and folks, first of all, again, Sinwar to Iran, escaping through the Philadelphia corridor through Sinai, feasible, possible, could have, with hostages in tow. How many hostages? We don't know, but we've heard reports, number one, that Yahya Sinwar is saying, no deal with Israel, no ceasefire, unless I have guarantees that I will not be killed. And so that's one thing to know. And number two, it's been reported that the IDF believes Sinwar has surrounded himself with a chain of hostages, a human chain of human shields, Israeli, perhaps American hostages as well, surrounding him in his underground lair someplace in the bowels of hell in Gaza in those tunnels. So know that, number one. So, okay, he wants to escape. He wants to have hostages with him as some sort of insurance to the delight of the Iranian regime if he made his way to Iran. How does he do that? And I wasn't joking earlier. I said he's got to wear a disguise, right? Does he disguise the hostages as well, I presume? So intelligence, satellite footage doesn't pick any of this up. A lot of questions here, but this is something that's being seriously discussed in Israel. And Bibi mentioned it again this week, that look, hostages ferried away to Iran. This is not, in my view, it's not implausible, but we've got a lively chat here, a very active chat room, and a lot of very educated viewers who are passionate about this. Let me know what you think, guys and girls. Here's the deal. And the world, it's very biblical. The Bible says when everyone, Revelation says, when everyone's screaming peace and safety, the end will come on them like a flood. And you can see that impulse right now, where the entire world, especially after the horrific, demonic murder of 6 innocent people by Hamas, the world is howling and gnashing its teeth even more, grinding its teeth and saying, we want a ceasefire now. No matter the cost, apparently. And that's the key point. That's why I mentioned that passage out of Revelation. All we want is peace and a ceasefire and the hostages to return home. Amen. I'd love to see peace and the hostages to return home. I don't know if a ceasefire is the wisest thing at this point. Actually, it's not. But amen. Agreed. But where I part ways strongly is that they finish their sentence, the people want a ceasefire now, by saying, whatever it takes, we need a ceasefire. As Biden and Harris have said, this war needs to end. First of all, that's not for them to decide. That's for Israel to decide on how to protect itself. Israel, a sovereign nation. But it seems that much of the world, the Biden administration, the Israeli left, we saw those throngs, hundreds of thousands in the streets of Tel Aviv last weekend, and it continued protests, including the EU, of course, the UN, the Biden administration. Just give Hamas whatever they want, seems to be the message, so we can get the hostages back. Now, do we even know the location of all the hostages? No, we don't. Tragically, is Hamas? Are we at the point where Israel is expected to just trust Hamas to be an honest broker here? So a lot of questions to start with. Secondly, part of the price seems to be the world saying, and some of the left of the Israeli security establishment who hates Bibi, and a lot of this folks at its root is political. They want to see Bibi out. It's similar to Trump derangement syndrome here in the United States. That's the view of Bibi among some in the left and the establishment in Israel. Surprise, surprise. The deep state and the swamp seem to be global. But they're saying give up the Philadelphia corridor. They would also say give Sinwar, some would say give Sinwar safe passage. Just pull out and call it a day. Declare victory, Israel, even if Hamas is still alive to fight another day. And that's a problem. Because if Israel, God forbid, gave up that Philadelphia corridor, perhaps eventually they'll be in a position to do exactly that. I hope so. But right now, probably not very smart. If they do that, and Hamas, and you know they're going to do it, because this is a relentless, demonic, evil force driven by a bloodlust. It's a demonic death cult. If the result of years of Israeli airstrikes and military actions against Hamas in Gaza and taking out Hamas leaders and bombing Hamas positions, if the result of that was not Hamas standing down, but Hamas pushing the envelope even more and carrying out the October 7th massacre, then you can bet as soon as Israeli forces pull out of Gaza, the Hamas orcs will be at it again. And the Philadelphia corridor, their eyes would light up, and right away, they don't care about the people of Gaza. That's why the leaders of Hamas who are in exile in Qatar, at least the ones who are still alive, are billionaires, literally billionaires. The not so dearly departed Ismail Haniyeh, taken out in Tehran under the Iranian regime's noses on August 1st, a billionaire. Khaled Mashal, a billionaire. Salih al-Aruri, killed in January, billionaire. Now, where did that come from? Are they just successful Gazan businessmen and entrepreneurs? Or did they pocket untold millions and billions of that international aid that continues to flow into Gaza for the past several decades from the West, principally? They pocketed it knowingly and sadistically as their people struggled and suffered, in some cases, just led horrific lives. So they don't care clearly about the welfare of Gazan civilians at all. If Israel pulls out and withdraw of Gaza writ large, and that's what Biden wants and Harris, and gives up control of the Philadelphia corridor, Hamas's first and leaves Hamas intact, at least somewhat. Look, Hamas has been decimated, but they're not completely dead. If they do that, Hamas's first impulse will not be, oh, wow, now let's rebuild Gaza and help the people. No, their first impulse will be, okay, let's dig some more tunnels. Let's get the flow going again. Rockets, missiles out of Egypt. Let's do it. That's all they care about. Folks, that is their sole rationale for existence, to kill, maim, and murder. They are walking demons. Modern day Nazis, all they care about is blood and death. Truly, art works. If you don't know what work is, come on. Lord of the Rings, anyone? A climactic battle between good and evil. Wow. Seems very fitting for our times, right? Really, J.R.R. Tolkien was ahead of his time and spoke to, and his time was World War II, but he spoke to what we are experiencing today in many ways. Real quick, in terms of Hamas plans, psychological warfare, the German newspaper Bild, B-I-L-D, said the IDF seized a computer of Yahya Sinwar. He actually knows how to type. And on it, documents that they want to, the plan is from April 2024. These documents were found on Sinwar, I guess his laptop. According to Bild, the document lists several factors that Hamas wants to consider as it negotiates a hostage ceasefire deal. These include exhausting Israel's military apparatus, increasing international pressure on Israel, and maintaining its armed capacity. Yes, they're not going to give up their weapons. Then they wouldn't be Hamas. It also says that Hamas intentionally abuses hostages to improve its leverage and its negotiating position. This is just unspeakably evil. There's not enough words to describe it. This is out of the mind, or what's left of it, of Yahya Sinwar. So you have the blueprint. They're not going to give up their arms. They're going to abuse hostages. They're going to seek to increase international pressure. I got to tell you, folks, his strategy seems to be working thus far. Yes, they've been decimated massively, but they still have weapons. They're not dead completely. International pressure on Israel? We've talked about this a bunch, right? Somehow Israel has become Goliath in this war in the eyes of much of the world. It's madness. Not only on the far left, the atheist, decadent far left, but there's elements now on the right, I'm sad to say. Folks who I've agreed with over the years on the gender madness, cultural issues, and everything like that, suddenly have taken a sharply anti-Semitic turn. And they're delving into revisionist history, portraying Hitler as just misunderstood. And Churchill was really the bad guy. It's madness, but this is really gaining traction on the right. So I say all that to say that Hamas, when it comes to that, the court of public opinion, they're making some headway. It isn't that sad. Isn't that a sign of the times where we live? Again, where good is called evil and evil is called good. And that's where we're at right now. Israel, you could say, is up against it, right? And Israel, it seems isolated. Even its greatest ally, the United States, is sending mixed messages constantly. And yet, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, still sits on the throne. Always has, always will. He is in control. And the more Israel seems isolated, I believe the more God will increase his hedge of protection over his land and over his people. Folks, we've seen some miracles. I don't use the term lightly. Throughout Israel's history, it's modern history since 1948, of course, but in this war, whenever we have had hostage rescues, and we've seen several, it's been amazing. The stories behind them, how it all went down. April 13th, 99% of Iran's incoming missiles and drones intercepted, 99% of over 300. What are the odds? That's God. Preemptively striking Hezbollah and negating that attack on August 25th before it could develop. And some would say, look, prayer has been working in a major way in terms of staying the hands of Israel's enemies. Iran's been breathing threats since August 1st. Hey, they may attack any day. God forbid, but they may. But you know what? At least there's been a brief reprieve here. I think the entire world expected Iran to attack 3 weeks ago, and they still haven't. And they may attack, and they may not. We don't know, but keep praying because prayer works. In all of this, prayer works. You're seeing Bible prophecy unfold before your very eyes. You truly are. So keep it right here. We're trying to give you a front row seat here and break it all down for you, again, from an unapologetically biblical perspective. And we're going to continue to do it. If anything happens this weekend, I will be back with you. Hey, quick reminder, if you love this channel, you will love our nightly show. Yeah, we're on TV too, on TBN. That's TBN. Every Monday through Friday, every weeknight. My new show just launched in March. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight. You can catch every night 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time is the re-air. And every night we're bringing it strong. Everything you're hearing about here and much more, and all the B-roll and interviews and maps that you would love on a beautiful set here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So check that out. We also have, believe it or not, a second YouTube channel here. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight, at Stakelbeck Tonight. Subscribe there too, and you'll see clips from the TV show at Stakelbeck Tonight. Big emphasis there on Bible prophecy, biblical archaeology, history, some cool stuff at Stakelbeck Tonight as well. And check out the podcast. It's called the Stackscast. In-depth conversations with fascinating people, personal testimonies, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. It's called the Stackscast. We reached number 40 on Apple for Christian podcasts last week. So things are picking up there as well. God's got us with our hand to the plow in these prophetic times, and we're loving it. And we're just trying to follow his lead and trust that he'll make our paths straight and yours too. So everyone have a great weekend. If anything happens again, we'll be here. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching.